Yeah, hi, this is Volker Engel, sitting here with Doug Smith. We're the two supervisors, visual effects supervisors from Independence Day, and we're guide you through the show. At the moment, we're looking at the main title sequence, and those were created in CG by a company called Vision Art. And there was actually a funny story about that one when we were sitting in the
Right. Just before the film got finished, we were looking at the titles, and they were running it back and forth, and everybody decided that the titles look better going backwards, and that's the version you see, is the title is actually running backwards from the way they were designed. On the moon surface was one of the first things that was shot during the production, actually the very first thing, and there was a lot of experimenting going on, and this was one thing that Roland was heavily involved in while we were shooting. So what ended up being shot is a lot different than the storyboards.
exactly. And the most tricky thing for us was to erase these footprints that are coming up. We're showing the footprints of the astronauts, and we had a little motor attached to a piece of wood, and we were shaking this piece of wood so you actually see uh, the footprints being erased. And all this, of course, is miniature.
The good thing about the footprints being erased is that the technician that was doing it said we have such a huge motor, it'll shake the entire stage. First two times he did it, nothing happened.
And this is a practical shadow that was blocking out our stage lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a forced perspective with what you see is what we got in the camera with the foreground ship and the mountains in the distance.
And here comes the mothership.
Yeah, the mothership is, I guess the portion we're looking at is probably about 8 feet long as a motion control shot here. Sort of similar to the beginning of Star Wars.
Just a little bit. This is actually the time we can briefly talk about how we got involved in the movie. I got this phone call when I was still in Germany. I was teaching at a film school in southern Germany, and I had done some previous work with Roland Emmerich, two movies called Moon 44 and Universal Soldier. And he called me and said, "Don't you want to come over and let's work together again?" And I got the script, and I was pretty excited because this looked like a major show. And once I was over there, I got to meet Doug Smith, who's sitting beside me here.
Yeah, actually, when I got involved, it was Volker. I guess you'd already been involved for many weeks, and I don't know how long. I was talked to about shooting the first test during pre-production of the wall of destruction look, and also a lot of tests for an idea on how to get a lot of flying shots with large photographic backgrounds that were high resolution. There was a general discussion about trying to approach Independence Day in a non-high-tech way, and everything was sort of designed around getting the most amount of visual image for the least amount of money and as quickly as possible. So they wanted to test these ideas, and also it would help get the final green light on the movie if this wall of destruction thing worked out well.
Exactly, yeah. The general idea was always not to start with the most complicated computer animated digital shot, but how can we do most of it actually in the camera, meaning we have usually a miniature setup and try to get as much as possible in camera and only do a digital composite, meaning putting a lot of different elements together, a couple of different elements together when we have to.
Has a diameter of over 550 kilometers and a mass roughly one-fourth the size of our moon.
What the hell is it? A meteor?
No, sir.
No, definitely not.
The pre-production phase was really short. The actual time that I remember, and your time was even shorter than that,
Slowing down.
was around 6 weeks after I came over to the States.
Mm-hmm. Our original test was shot actually in the hangar space that the model shop was set up in. And Roland actually put together a nice sequence that involved a guy driving a car, and we had 3 cars in this little tiny area, and all the elements that were necessary to shoot the model and the explosion and the flying cars. And we went through it quite quickly. but it was an entire little sequence from tuning the radio in and having static to seeing the guy looking through the window with a reflection in the window.
That shot is actually in the movie.
And it turned out to be in the movie. When the test was done and done at video resolution, you could tell how happy Roland was, and it advanced the project pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people at Fox were also very happy seeing how it turned out.
Approval ratings have slipped below 40%. Even his crime bill failed to pass. Are the salad days over for President Whitmore? More tons.
Leadership as a pilot in the Gulf War is completely different from leadership in politics.
Daddy, let me watch Letterman.
The idea for the wall of destruction did not come from me, and I was part of just trying to accomplish the look.
There was a discussion between Roland and mainly Joe Viscosal, who became our miniature pyrotechnical supervisor. And Joe was explaining this chimney effect to take miniature buildings and put them in a 90-degree angle, and you set up an explosion on the stage floor, and you have your camera under the ceiling looking down. First of all, nobody knows later in what direction they're looking, so it's a perspective sheet. And fire always wants to go up, so you set up this explosion, you set off this explosion, and it rises towards the ceiling, and it hits all these buildings and wraps around the corners and does all these things. And we first started with just wooden boxes instead of detailed miniature buildings. And once the mixture of the pyrotechnical powder was right, then we actually did it with the real buildings.
Yeah, there's some real limits with the way the explosion looked. If the explosion started too far away, it would turn black before it reached the camera. So you could only have a certain amount of time or distance in order to do it.
Yes. Could you say that again?
On this shot, there's a satellite that flies into this mothership, the alien mothership, and we went to a lot of trouble to make this look like an old Russian satellite. And I don't think many people probably realize what it is. And this piece of the mothership that comes in is probably only, I'd say, maybe 8 to 10 inches across.
Yeah, it was fairly small.
That satellite shot was one of the first things we did in the motion control stage. It involves a 180-degree pan, and those things are very difficult to shoot sometimes. This one turned out to be very problematic, and I think we were up in the around take 20 to 30 because there are so many strange problems that happened. It was one of the most time-consuming, simple elements that were shot.
At this point, we should probably say a little bit about the setup that we had at the Howard-Hughes Airport in Playa del Rey.
Right. This was what was used for the manufacturing of the spruce goose and back in the 40s. And the main shooting stages were these 1,000-foot long, 80-foot wide stages. But we were in a kind of a Quonset hut style building that was, I think the measurement was around 200 by 200, and we divided that up into about 4 or 5 shooting stages with it varied all the time. Between 2 and 3 of them were motion control oriented, and the others were more of the miniature sort of high speed live action and areas where the destroyer would be shot.
Exactly.
By Philip Timmy and Anna Forrester.
Mm-hmm. We had our offices in our main hangar. That's where we pretty much spent a little bit more than a year of our life.
Right. The actual production offices were in the old Howard Hughes business offices. And since then, all those, the main hangars are still there, but all the offices have all been torn down. And it's not too long ago.
Yeah, it's a pretty surreal setup there. You have these buildings with these huge hallways that just go on for, it looks like it's like a mile long when you look down these hallways.
Right, the hangar that all the miniature stuff was done in was used for a Batman movie just before we came in, and when Independence Day left, it was used for Titanic.
Yo, the signal's all screwed up.
Stop it. Just leave it alone. You're gonna break it, all right?
I'm so fuzzy.
Another very specific thing about our setup that we had there was that for the shooting of the miniatures, we pretty much set up, I think you could say, our own company to do all that. There's another way to do it. You can hire a visual effects company that has shooting stages and does all these things. The idea really was a cost-cutting factor of not dealing too much with overhead costs on this. And so we hired everybody we wanted to work with and had this set up in the hangar.
And this also fed into the idea that everything would be done in a slightly different way, in a less complicated way. And we didn't want to work with sort of preconceived ideas of how it might be done.
Exactly. My biggest advantage was that this was my first big budget movie, and so there were no preconceived ideas whatsoever.
This crop dusting plane used to feature prominently in our work. There was a beautiful miniature made of this crop dusting plane for the end of the movie, which we'll talk about later. And there was a huge amount of work that went into this crop dusting plane as far as building it and shooting it, and you don't see it any longer in this version of the movie.
Sure.
Here we're just about to see the deployment of the destroyers from the mothership, which you
Right.
with your crew.
Yeah, the destroyers, when they come loose, the original idea was there were just 3 of them that would come loose, and you'd see them in the distance. Eventually, they decided to do more and more, so the same elements were used again. These have thousands of fiber optics in them, and are quite complicated miniatures, and the outer ring that it detaches from is shot totally separately from the spaceship itself.
CNS is running its stores up here covering up some type of nuclear testing experiment.
I'll tell them to run with it if they want to embarrass themselves.
NASA's been on my butt all morning. They want to know our position.
Our official position is we have no official position.
Next thing we're going to see in just a minute or so will be our phenomenon cloud. And this is based on a very old technique using a water tank and using pretty much regular paint. This was white paint that we would inject through was a copper tube that had a specific shape to it, and we were pressing this paint through tiny little holes, hundreds of little holes that were drilled in this copper tubing, and then this copper tube was moved through the tank underwater
with an elaborate miniature lighting rig that was in the water behind it.
Inside, yeah, exactly. And so the clouds that you would see in the water is pretty much like your milk clouds that you see in your coffee. That's the same principle. And we shot this with high speed and would later integrate this in landscapes that were shot. And I think the first ones we're going to see will be in the desert.
Because the facility we were at, even this milky water was treated as a toxic substance and had to be totally isolated from spilling anywhere on the studio or in the Playa Vista area. So it turned out to be a pretty complicated process for having trucks come in and ship the waste material out, and it's a very complicated process to set up one of these water tank facilities. And also, it takes much longer than people first realized, and it was starting, since it was one of the first things that was worked on, it started to drag a bit on morale as the pressure increased to try to make our deadline. Even in the first couple of weeks, there was a lot of pressure in order to make sure we finished on time.
This is the element we were just talking about, done underwater in the cloud tank. we're going to see a couple of more of those.
It's very difficult to combine those water tank elements with a live action scene because of the blending that's necessary to make the clouds feel like they're part of the atmosphere and going away in the distance. There's a lot of finessing that's done in order to combine those.
There's one funny thing I remember about shooting this when one of our directors of photography, Anna Förster, was shooting this cloud tank footage. The crew she was working with was not used to work with a woman, with a female director of photography on the set. So usually when she had an idea and said something, she would get a yes sir. That took a while until that changed.
We now have 2 confirmed
That's affirmative, Mr. President. They're tracking another one off the California coastline.
All right, go ahead, put it on. General, you might want to watch this.
Yes, sir.
We're going to see some newsreel footage here, which we also had to create, also using our cloud tank footage. And I think Lincoln Hyatt and Ed Marsh and his crew, who did all these little video insert pieces.
They did an amazing amount of work. With a small crew, they worked out all these video composite things and did some very nice work. We knew that this cloud tank stuff was going to be used at video resolution, so thankfully we're able to not have to finish these to the same degree that the other shots were.
3 minutes.
I don't understand it, sir. Side radar doesn't see a thing. I know it's blind, sir. Nothing. It's registering. Negative. We have 0.
Here starts our AWAC sequence, which simply used one of those shots that you described earlier, which we tested. You see it right here. This is a miniature
On wires.
On wires, exactly.
Yeah. That one actually took a while to accomplish. It was very grainy due to the high-speed film. But the amazing thing about it is what you see there is the way it looked on camera. The finished shot with the clouds moving by. Same with this shot.
And this, of course, is an explosion element, which always goes on the screw. Fly in, and there was an element shot for the fire rushing through the plane, where we built, I think it was half scale or something like that, with wooden boxes painted black to represent the consoles on the left and the right side of the plane, and you shoot a fire element, and the fire wraps around these black wooden boxes, and you just take this element and combine it with the live action shot of the plane, and through a process called rotoscoping, which is pretty much painting the edges of the people reacting, and you see the fire wrap around them and come towards the camera.
The best idea right now is to stay in their homes.
Yes, sir. Roy, Dean.
Alex, contact the cabinet members. Have them rendezvous here. We'll take them to NORAD.
Contact the Vice President.
President, with your permission, I'd like to remain at your side.
I had a feeling.
We were actually very fortunate to work with a director who has a sense for all this visual effects work. That is not a pretty usual thing, I would say, because there's so much interaction between the live action and the miniature stuff, where the lighting has to be right. You'll see that later in the destruction sequence, and you really need somebody who is so visual and has the movie already in his head, and is also able to communicate this to the crew, to the department heads. And this great advantage also means you don't shoot so many things that you have to later either reshoot or that don't get used in the movie. I think we were pretty effective with our rate of shots that were put on film and actually later used in the movie. You always hear about these projects where they shot and shot and shot, and later you don't see much of that in the finished film.
One is headed towards Los Angeles.
Another advantage we had was most of the sets of the White House and even the television control room were all about 1,500 feet to 2,000 feet away from where we were working. So the communication between Roland and the rest of us was pretty immediate. It also cuts down a tremendous amount of work. This control room that we're looking at right now was one of the office areas in this old Hughes facility that they reworked. And the same with the White House, whole White House set was on one of these 1,000-foot long stages at the Howard Hughes facility.
Yeah, which means one could take a Polaroid of a setup or something like that, and or a video that we quickly shot of it, and run over to the main unit and pop it in the VCR and show it to Roland, get his okay or get his ideas for changes, and then we could incorporate these changes. This would be something that would maybe take us 15-20 minutes to actually do from this, just to get this information.
Yeah, so on a regular production, that turnaround process is usually takes a day or maybe 2 days in a lot of cases in order to get the go-ahead. So it turned out to be a very economical way to do the show.
Exactly. Oftentimes you have to deal with memos first. Don't get direct input. I think we're going to see one of our early shadow shots here pretty soon, and this one was created digitally over real landscape, and this will lead us into a lot of other shadow shots that have been accomplished with different techniques.
So that's a artwork that's moving over a real background shot.
This is another phenomenon here, which is very tricky because it's daylight. And you see the lights from the inside of the clouds. So here we start with all these different techniques. These two, of course, were digital shadows. And once we see the Statue of Liberty, for example, a completely different technique was used, which was, I would say, really down to earth, because for those things, and or like the Washington Monument, we actually backed up. You see it right here. We backed up our lighting truck. It was blocking out the sun, and this was our shadow.
And same with the Capitol building. It's the same Capitol building that was later exploded. So we got multiple uses out of many of the miniatures.
Including the White House. This is actually a real shot of the White House here. This is the miniature. And the beautifully sculpted Statue of Liberty. This was done by Michel Millet.
This New York was a background, a live-action plate. We tried many ways of having the shadow go across it, and it turned out that even it's a little bit non-realistic, but it's almost a straight line that goes away. It made it the most understandable.
Aren't you coming?
We actually shot Jeff Goldblum on the parking lot just in front of our hangar.
Yeah, that the rooftop set is I think was shot on the last day of actual production. This is one of the best known shots from the film,
done by Connie Fauser.
In the compositing stage, we in the water tank pushed a shape that was similar to the edge of the ship through the cloud, and then the two elements in a very complicated manner had to be combined.
And we actually also had a 12-foot destroyer on a forklift, which we pushed through a real cloud that we did on stage, and we gave those elements together with a background to Connie to composite it. All these shots were done with a 12-foot destroyer we had.
And there were many different takes of the 12-foot destroyer with different levels of fog in the room in order to give this sense of aerial perspective. And when they were put in the sky, the artist who was combining these images would use different layers of the different fog spaceships in order to make it look like it had the right aerial perspective.
Which is totally important, otherwise it just looks like a cutout.
I think, yeah, actually it's one of the key things that made it work was these multiple shots of the same ship with different fog levels.
My God.
thing we just saw there was maybe like a 1 foot section of the destroyer going over the White House.
Now what do we do?
Yeah, the level of detail that was put in the models by Mike Joyson's crew is pretty amazing. There's a lot demanded of the 12-foot model.
I'm one of them.
We had a crew of around, I think, 25 model makers and some on-set painters for the miniatures and mold makers. But it was around, I guess, around 30 people overall being involved in this miniature process, building all these miniatures. I've been asked so many times, how many miniatures did you have on this movie? And I can only say a couple hundred.
I don't believe this. Jasmine, neighbors moving out. Guess they finally got tired of all these quakes.
The sequence that's coming up with Will Smith being pretty amazed at what he's looking at when he's going outside the house, I think could be described as one of these major scenes that Roland and Dean had in their head when they wrote the script. Just saying, like, imagine you walk out of your house in the morning and you look at this gigantic cape that's just covering the whole city from left to right. Because initially, this whole idea of doing kind of a new War of the Worlds didn't really thrill too many people. But when Roland started describing it, yeah, but you haven't seen the scope of this whole thing, then a lot of people were convinced.
These helicopters were motion control, and there's quite a few smaller ones off in the distance.
You want some of this coffee? Babe.
Pentagon officials reporting more ships have just arrived over the capitals of India, England, and Germany, bringing estimates up to anywhere from 10 to 15 of these city-sized spacecraft.
I know, Ma. Just try and stay calm.
As to why these ships...
Tell her to pack up and leave town.
Why would happen?
Just do it!
I think this gives us a chance to elaborate a little on the upcoming destruction sequences. And everything you're going to see during this sequence, I think we will not be able to really quickly explain all those different shots while they're happening, because it's all these 5-second cuts, one after the other for, I think, around 5 minutes. We just like to set this up a little at this point. And the basic idea was always to use the technique described a little earlier as the chimney technique, where you would set off this explosion on the floor and the fire would rise to the ceiling, and the miniature itself was actually tilted 90 degrees. And we've been asked a lot of times here, what happens if you set off an explosion and the shot doesn't look good? Amazingly enough, the turnaround time of repainting and adding detail to the miniatures again was not that bad. Our model crew was so efficient that they could actually, I would probably say, like in an afternoon, refurbish these miniatures so we could use them for another take.
That's on the ones where there's a ball of fire coming up the street. Now, the ones where the model was disintegrated was another story.
Yeah, no chance for a second take there. I think our rule of thumb there was that we were always prepared to do a second take. What you do if you have a Capitol building or the White House is that you have a metal frame, and there's the mold makers provide us with all these different pieces of the buildings that are very accurately made, and they're made out of what, like gypsum?
Yeah, it's a combination of things that will break apart quite easily.
Yeah.
If you feel compelled to leave these cities, please do so in an orderly fashion.
For the White House, we were very lucky. We made it a one-shot
Right.
deal.
And this the whole process was done on again trying to keep it as economical as possible. So there was a gamble taken, and there was only really one White House, and there was molds made, but there weren't extra parts for it. And so there's a tremendous amount of planning that went into the White House with the hope that there wouldn't be a second take. And that's a big gamble.
Why? That's why.
Here's another effect shot that we had to really quickly accomplish because nobody thought about that there was a POV from her outside of the window. And when we did some reshoots on some explosions very, very late in the movie, we had to quickly set up this window frame also somewhere outside and shoot this. All these little extra things that make life fun.
Yeah, Roland is also heavily involved in the shooting just the second unit elements. He had very specific ideas about what were needed, and he's very complete about trying to edit together a smooth story, and was involved in all these small additional shots that had to be done.
Take care of yourself, you hear?
We mentioned that we had to actually blow up the Capitol twice. This one didn't work out as good as the White House.
Right. Although it was my experience, and I was pretty concerned about this. It usually takes 3 explosions to get a good one, and the success ratio was quite high in this.
When I started on this, I was used to much cheaper work that we had done in Germany, and usually only had pretty much one take to do things. And you come over here, you work with different budgets, and of course the crew you're working with is also used to. There's a little more. How can I put it?
Leeway,
yes. And so we came in and we said, no, we're really, really trying to go to get it always the first time. And it was an interesting experience.
The television said they started eluding already, haven't Well, shoot.
You still have the Plymouth?
You want to borrow the car? David, you don't have a license.
You're driving.
Yeah, I'm driving.
Come on.
I really want you out of Los Angeles.
You're staying there to keep people calm. It's the right thing to do. I'm not going to let them criticize you for
I
it.
appreciate you're trying to help me.
Liar. Stick to the truth. It's what you're good at.
All right, I'll tell you the truth. I don't want you in any one of those cities.
I'll leave as soon as the interviews are done.
All right. There's a helicopter waiting. They're going to take you to Nellis.
The Munchkin?
She's going to meet you there.
All right. I love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Next is coming up this traffic jam leaving New York City. This traffic jam was actually all shot around the LA airport and some roads that they could secure. The cars that you see there are all actual real cars, and it's just phenomenal that they're able to organize this and get this done. And in order to place the later shots, like in Washington, D.C., some just photographs of the Capitol and the Washington Monument were just matted in the background to help establish the location. So there were a lot of tricks like that that were done to just visually place what is the Los Angeles airport location in other areas.
Oh, you gave it all away. And just quick shots like this to establish that the destroyers are actually hovering all over the country, actually all over the world.
They've been studying it for years, finding out our weaknesses. We've got to stop them. They're going to kill us all.
Now, some people attribute his eccentric behavior to post-traumatic stress syndrome from his service as a pilot in Vietnam. Others, however, have a more unusual...
Another interesting experience for me was that I had the chance to bring over some students from the film school I was teaching at in Germany, and they had the chance to work on this movie. I think in the end it was 12 students, or I should say former students, working on it. It was pretty much all students that had been working on either movies or TV shows before and had some practical experience of one kind or another. But on this movie, they really had the chance to get used in very good positions. So we had people in digital compositing as directors of photography for the visual effects, and also model maker, and which was a very important fact, Mark Weigert and Nikolaus Krämer doing this a wonderful thing that we later called the Bible, because Mark had invented this project management software that enabled us to list all the elements next to the storyboards and make these printouts where you have storyboards on the left side. So you would have like 8 or 9 storyboards and on one page, and have a description on the right side, and also the shooting date and everything. And this was being distributed to all the department heads, so everybody had the same information.
Yeah, trying to organize something with hundreds of shots, and each of those shots has multiple elements that can turn into a nightmare. And so their ability to keep it all up to date was a tremendous help. And things had to be revised constantly as different needs came up, and they were able to adapt their database to make it work.
Also here it was really important that we would actually talk to the guys directly. I remember at one point of time, Mark actually had his computer in my office, so we would always communicate directly. So you just walk in there, you say, well, by the way, this shot has been eliminated, or Roland just added these 2 new ideas and this has been changed, and so on. So there's another thing where you don't start writing memos or have to send faxes or something like that. Everything was just the same place.
Although that may not sound like a big deal, the crew involved hundreds of people, and if you think of a company with hundreds of employees, you can imagine the ability to communicate directly with everybody that's responsible is a big time saver.
I remember at the end of the movie, I went to our accounting department and asked how many people we actually had on the payroll, and the number was 325.
It puts the booty like right in front of the lip. What's this?
Oh, that's nothing.
Hold on, oh man, what is this?
Jasmine kind of has a thing for dolphins. I don't know.
Stevie.
And here we have 2 singers in one shot. Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah, even this locker room was over there in the Howard Hughes Airport between these 2 giant hangars.
Yeah, they sure got their money's worth from that location.
You know that, man. Man, you're never gonna get to fly the space shuttle if you marry a stripper.
It could only happen in California, file. Here's Wayne Small. Special report.
Below us, we see hundreds of UFO fanatics who have gathered on rooftops.
This was another logistical nightmare for the Fortuna team. Shooting in downtown Los Angeles and placing a couple of crews on the tops of the skyscrapers to shoot what's happening and shoot the other people on the other skyscrapers. And actually also get enough extras up there so it looks crowded enough. And then the director has to sit at one place and via microphones and headsets instruct everybody with their cameras and the helicopters and on the other roofs to do the right thing. Because of course you only have a limited amount of time to shoot this.
Yeah, there's not only the actors, there's guiding the helicopters, and then there's guiding the helicopters, shooting the helicopters. It is quite an organizational feat.
We were actually well off. We only had to put a bunch of spaceships behind the skyscrapers.
Okay. Okay. I'm going. I'm out of town for a while. Later. Bye. Hey, there's my angel. Come on. Come on, Boomer. Let's go, yo.
Hey, come on. Talk to your boyfriend later. Hey, what the hell's the kid doing here? Huh? Get out
You
of here.
try finding a sitter today.
Hey, where do you think you're going? You leave, you're fired.
Nice working with you, Mario. Come on, Boomer.
Back at the Los Angeles airport
with the
location.
Capitol building in the background.
And the mothership over it.
So here are some special effects. We have the American phone book, which is not existing as you see it there. And this was Hartmut Engel and Benedikt Niemann and Stefan Herrmann designing these things before we actually started the movie. And it was always important for Jeff Goldblum, whenever he used his laptop computer, to just push any button, and then the thing that was being used would pop up. No special effects here.
Nice driving, Pops.
Now this is in Washington, D.C.
This is the actual real building in the background. The spaceship was fake.
Spunky. College nickname.
Oh, cute. You tried Levinson?
No, she didn't take my name when we were married. Why would you? What are you talking about?
Science.
Here, look.
So they're going to drive by the White House here soon.
Yes, and this is another example of a very cheap effect where we could use our White House miniature, which you see right here in the background. This is actually the miniature with two miniature helicopters in front of it. This is a forced perspective shot with a real car in the foreground and a real fence and a piece of grass.
About 50 feet of grass. And it's just very clever of Roland to use it this way.
I think there was actually the story that they were not allowed to shoot in front of the real White House, having all these protesters marching up and down there.
That was another issue for the movie, because Area 51 was mentioned in the movie and given such a significant part of it. We could not get military
support.
help. Yeah, with the jets and stuff, and also obviously in this area too. It significantly affected the way the movie had to be made.
It was one of these things where you come on board the movie and you hear that we can use all these real jet fighters and everything and shoot on tarmacs with the real planes, and all of a sudden that's not possible anymore. So you have to rent a couple of wooden mock-ups of jet fighters, which helped us a lot throughout the whole movie, and do the rest in miniature or computer generated.
Here we have the sequence of Operation Welcome Wagon. This helicopter setup was duplicated in miniature, and the miniature also had the same programming on these very tiny lights to sequence them in the same manner.
Yeah, they got this giant sky crane helicopter, and I've heard it wasn't very easy to shoot this thing because of all the air pressure from the rotor blades going and blowing away the equipment while shooting it. So even something like that, like the lights you see under this helicopter, is something that has to be designed. And we had two production designers on this movie, Oliver Scholl and Patrick Tatopoulos. And Patrick was also the feature designer and supervisor for some of the stuff we see later.
Which, of course, I wasn't.
Hey, either go get him or we should head back to the car.
All right, I'll get him. You wait here and don't touch anything.
You punched the president?
This is a background that's shot over Los Angeles from the hills that represents Washington.
Nearing point of contact, Echo 1.
Those helicopters obviously were both the miniature.
They also had to be built in a way that we could blow them up later. But we don't want to give anything away.
You know what famous people have been here? Politicians, actors, baseball players, singers. And now me.
Imagine that. Look, a poor immigrant like me. It's a dream.
David, please.
The three choppers are steadily approaching what has been unanimously agreed to be the front of these spaceships. A parabolic indentation, 9 city.
You're leaving now? David, see if you got those pens that they give away.
Dad, what?
I have a choice. I don't have time for this.
2 minutes.
Connie, Julius Levinson. David is my.
You wouldn't listen.
No, you
Let's
haven't
go.
tell him that.
Are you ready?
No,
David, you have to.
Connie.
David, tell him.
This White House set was actually used on a couple of other movies. I remember it was, I believe, used on Nixon, and it was a very elaborate set that had been built.
Spaceships on different sides of the Earth. Couldn't send a direct signal, right?
You're talking about line of sight.
Jeff Goldblum's drawing out the basic plot of the movie. Everything hinges on his drawing here.
Well, I found a signal hidden inside our own satellite system.
Excuse me, Mr. Preston. They're starting.
They're using our own satellites against us. The clock is ticking.
That was the real helicopter. You can see it shaking, and there's so much weight. So this is the miniature with an overscale tower of this destroyer that's going to open up.
Matching the lighting is always a crucial part in these setups. Just the miniature again, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real one.
General Gray, coordinate with the Atlantic Command. Tell them to evacuate as many people out of the cities as they can.
Yes, sir.
Get those helicopters away from the ship. Call them back immediately.
What the hell's going on?
We're leaving. Kim, my daughter.
There's something happening here. They're responding. Something's opening.
Something is happening.
So we had these very strong lights behind the slit of this tower.
Right, shot in a smoke room. There's some additional artwork behind there to make it look like it was a smaller slit.
And here we were just tossing some flaming debris off a crane arm and composited in front of our Los Angeles background that we used for that shot.
Is my wife in the air? She will be shortly. Nice, very nice. Good.
Running out of the White House, this was actually just this really small set somewhere in the Los Angeles area. This, of course, is the miniature again. We had these helicopters hovering with a metal pole that actually comes out of the back of the helicopters. And we were booming them up with a dolly that you usually use to boom up the cameras.
Oh, yeah, great. Now he tells me.
There's some nice helicopter footage here that's all live and practical. And I kind of like to take credit for the fact that it looks so nice, but it's all the live action crew. Except for putting the destroyer in these shots.
A lot of these shots were actually shot in downtown Los Angeles, standing in for New York.
Hello, let me speak to Dr. Katz, please. I'm sorry, he's not available. Listen, for $300 an hour, you can put me through to his house in the Hamptons.
Must leave now. First lady secured. We're on the move.
We start opening what we always called the schism.
Mm-hmm. It's a separate model for that was also about 12 feet wide, but highly articulated, and everything here that's opening, it's working on a mechanism that drives everything automatically.
A guy called Eric Heisler had built this whole mechanism, and we also had to motion control all these moves.
Yeah, so it had to be shot in separate passes in order to get this smoke and beam effect going. And in the very wide shots, the 12-foot schism is matted into the 12-foot wide, smaller destroyer.
yeah, we couldn't use the small one because it was only a couple of inches in diameter. So we had to put one on top of the other. We already just saw some establishing shots for Empire State Building and the first interstate bank, as it was called in those days.
Right.
The tallest building in downtown Los Angeles. And here we start with our construction sequence. The particle beam you're going to see was a tricky thing to do also by a guy called Stefan Couture. Coming down on the buildings, everything you're going to see explode is done via miniature.
And for the most part, it was done against a black background and separated and put back into the same.
Yeah, there was no way you could shoot these in front of blue screen. There's actually my cameo here. So these street scenes were done in Los Angeles.
All the cars and debris that you see in a lot of the destruction shots were all separate elements from the building explosion. How tall was that building as a model?
Probably 15 feet. This is a typical shot for the ones that we described earlier as this chimney method. And then we would actually met the fire on top of the car. This was shot with, I believe, 8 different cameras to get the White House exploding and then choose the right angles on that. This was our test shot here.
The physical effects of pulling all these cars was also a lot of work for Clay Penny, the physical effects guy.
Our miniature fire engine, which was, I guess, bought at Toys R Us.
The second take at the Capitol explosion. This is a miniature of the 747 going down a runway. There are some motion control shots involved, like this one.
And a couple of different fire elements composited on top of each other to make it look really threatening. This shot involves, I guess, 3 different layers. Foreground buildings and background buildings, and a separate layer for the background. And here we come to 3rd Street Tunnel in Los Angeles. And we had a miniature tunnel built for this, for the shots where you see the cars bouncing against the ceiling. Sometimes we used a plexiglass ceiling with a blue screen behind it, and the cars bounce against it.
The tunnel miniature itself was pretty complicated and took quite a few takes because there's something about the way the air drafted that the explosion kept getting a black layer on it.
For stuff like this here.
So there were many takes on that. So a motorcycle was added later to that shot as a motion control motorcycle.
And the most important thing is that the dog makes it.
There were layers upon layers of flying cars, and it was sort of endless, the amount of photography on the different flying cars. A lot of the cars are very small, only 2 or 3 inches wide. This was also a forced perspective. The buildings in the background are only like 10 inches tall, with the same Statue of Liberty that's been redressed in the foreground with a water plate that was done out in San Pedro near Los Angeles. But the flying cars, there was only a few cars that were actually maybe 12 to 16 inches big. And one of the amazing things about a lot of the flying car elements is how small the cars were and how well they held up under the conditions of the photography.
A lot of times we actually used 24 scale cars that were really small. I would say, were they like 5, 6 inches, something like that, really, really small. And those were the cars in the background. And then we had the little taller ones. We had some metal models, and then we also had some other taller plastic ones for the foreground pieces. My favorite shot of the movie, Air Force One in front of a photo backing hanging on fishing wire. This was a shot that was completely done in camera. There's no composite involved. And the accompanying jet fighters that you saw, they are actually really small metal cast miniatures that you can buy for $3 or $4 at the toy store.
Philip Timmy did the lighting on that shot, and he did a great job. He placed a light aiming into the lens that lined up with the light source in the background, and added an additional flare in camera. So what you see there is exactly what we saw on dailies, and it's sort of satisfying to see something come together that well.
Yeah, another really important factor on this shot was the zero gravity feeling that you get. We used a so-called zero gravity arm, and it looks like it's being shot out of another airplane. And Anna Förster used this this technique to get this really slow floating feeling.
It's one of the concepts that was tested during the pre-production phase, and it got refined very nicely.
I remember the scouting on these shots here at the former Kaiser steel mill in Fontana, which is a place that at that time actually looked like that, without the cars and a lot of other things that had to be dressed, of course, but which is perfect to double for a destroyed Los Angeles. I always wondered why the palm trees were not burned, though. But
that same question. This location was also used for T2 pre-destruction or pre-teardown of the steel factory.
It's another one of my favorite shots coming up soon, where we see airplanes standing on the runway, and we see the pilots walking towards these airplanes. This is another good example. We were talking about the fact that we couldn't get any real airplanes, so we had these really small scale miniatures that you also buy in the toy store. And we placed them on this tabletop setup and shot pilots and technicians in front of a green background, walking actually over the green background.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
So here we see the pilots walk towards their planes, and the planes, like I said, were actually just miniatures. Also, the tower in the foreground was a miniature setup. So you get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, there's steam and smoke added along with the guys walking out their planes.
And all these are the wooden mock-ups of the airplanes, and we really only had 3 different ones for throughout the whole movie.
A couple of motion control jets in
front of some sky backgrounds that Roland shot in the desert. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really great to have a director like him, because he sees a great sky, he knows we can probably use it later, and has his crew quickly shoot it.
Yeah, one of the things about not getting any military support was all the planes, the practical ones, had to be privately owned or mock-ups. In this sequence, Uli Steiger was the second unit DP, and what you see here is what the final film looked like too. The planes in the background are actually miniature planes, rear-mounted, and they're being moved up and down. The camera's moving up and down, and the little planes are being moved up and down. Even the backing's being moved around on a forklift.
If you would actually shoot this with digital composites, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars more in compositing costs.
They did a great job of combining the live action with these little miniature pieces.
And here we have our 12-foot destroyer on top of a miniature landscape. And this miniature landscape is actually a sculpture done by Mike Hosh and his crew, and was really small. Those mountains were really only a couple of inches tall.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that they're 2 to 3 inches tall, and they look great. You can see them in some other shots too.
nights we are red and free.
real missiles.
Estes rocket style missiles.
Exactly.
These are CG smoke trails headed off toward the destroyer.
And we have our shield effects coming up here, done by Vision Art. There was a lot of designing going on with these strange effects. We also composited real explosions on top of these shields.
Are they not getting through?
No, sir, not one.
Night one, command, night one. Switching to sidewinders.
These foreground ships are motion controlled, and the background ones are CG.
Here we have some puppy clouds we at least used for these two shots here.
Come on.
Yeah, Vision Art did a great job with the smoke trails and with this shield. So pull up on this miniatures, different scales of this destroyer.
That was a pretty huge tower setup. And here we have the CG attackers come out. And we had, for this shot, we actually had a miniature airplane fly against a metal plate to simulate the impact. All those skies you see in these dogfight sequences consist of 7 different sky elements that Philip Timmer shot one evening in front of our Hangar 45.
Of real sunsets.
Real sunsets. And for us, I know we used them for both dogfights, just color timed and different. For this sequence here, when you're really close, going close at the destroyer, we had our huge pie shape, I think 30 foot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Destroyer piece.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a section of it was built quite large.
All right, I think we're gonna have to make a run for this one here. Let's get low, let's get fast.
The background battle is a procedural dogfight that Vision Art came up with a program to do. Here we are escaping from the battle with a miniature foreground.
It was always important to incorporate these burning fires there. We actually had little light bulbs flickering in the miniatures, and they would be replaced by these fire elements. All the exploding planes are real miniature planes that we blew up on stage and then composited over our 30-foot destroyer surface pieces.
There's some desert backgrounds that were shot near the little Colorado River.
That was your experience?
Yeah, we ended up using a World War II trainer, and that was mounted with cameras. And Kevin LaRosa owns the plane and was the pilot, and spent a while shooting all these Grand Canyon backgrounds that are coming up. These are motion control elements. So I think
this is a single shot. The exploding plane was actually done by Mark Weigert and his company Dreamscape as a test shot. It was composited on a PC, and we wanted to see in digital post that it would work out. And here we start with a lot of shots that Benedict Niemann did, the flying attackers, the swarms of attackers.
These are one of the first shots accomplished by the digital crew.
Mm-hmm.
These are all the mock-ups or privately owned jets that you see in the background for these scenes where they're on the runway. For a lot of these scenes, this World War II trainer is actually flying through the canyon. Now, on the shots with the explosions, that was a miniature canyon that was built to look similar to the actual canyon.
We had a plane on a bungee actually racing through that on some guide wires. And here's miniature again. And the real canyon. It's always intermixed. And the miniature. The plane was actually flying through the through the explosions there.
So it's one of the cases where I used motion control element.
And here we have the parachute shot in front of a blue screen. And a little puppet of Will Smith coming out of the plane. And the real explosion of the F-18. And this was, of course, miniature. This was shot in the parking lot in front of Hangar 45 on the US airport.
It actually slopes up at about, the background slopes up at about 15 degrees, so you don't get an horizon in the shot. The parachute was just actually a miniature parachute thrown off of top of a forklift and photographed. It's a matte painting over the live action background with a spaceship added. It's another miniature shot on that thing.
Complete miniature, yeah. We're always happy when we get these things completely in camera. Yeah, we actually used part of our foam canyon to produce this edge there.
I get another plane, I'm lining all your friends up right beside you. Where you at? Huh? Where you at?
And here's the Welcome to Earth shot. We used the design of Patrick Totopoulos' Alien for the first time.
Welcome to Earth.
That's what I call a close encounter.
Baby, stay right here. Stay right here with me. Keys. Come on, keys. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on.
Reports indicate that this battle has repeated itself all over the world with the exact same result.
You're just like your mother, you know that? She was stubborn too. Had to twist her arm to get her to take her medicine. You're gonna be all right.
You're gonna be fine.
There's a shot coming up of Air Force One over approaching Area 51. And to talk a little bit about these large backings that were done, we ended up hiring a company to do aerial surveys so we could get the largest negative that we could as a still. And we ended up with these 8x10 negatives of landscapes. First thing that this aerial photography company did was shoot a couple areas so we could narrow down the kind of look we wanted. Then they went back and covered it a little bit more thoroughly. We thought we were going to use them in a lot more situations than we ended up doing. And here's one of them. That backing is probably I don't know, 8 by 10 feet or somewhere in that range. And it's really successful using them in this way. It's one of the things that hadn't been done. It's a sort of an old idea, but using just high resolution photography and attaching this photograph to a hard backing and then moving everything in the shot works very well.
And of course the plane was again on these really thin fishing lines, and everything was lit in a way that it first of all matched to the background and would actually make these fishing wires invisible. Tricky thing is always get the reflections off of them. In our crew video, we actually had this funny shot of the one of the fishing wires breaking and the plane falling down.
Falling directly out of the bottom of the shot.
Yep.
Every time you see a 747 in the shot, it's the same 747, whether it's on wires or on the ground.
Nuclear strike over American soil. You're saying at this point we should sacrifice more innocent American civilians.
There's actually very little aerial photography in this film. There's only a few sequences with like over LA and that were done with aerial photography, and almost all the effects work except for the canyon sequence was done without any aerial photography.
We must launch.
A delay now would be more costly than when you waited to evacuate the city.
No, you're not going to launch nuclear weapons. You're going to kill them and us at the same time. If we fire nuclear...
So basically, the only real plane we have in the movie is the crop duster in the beginning.
Life as we know it. Do you hear what they're...
That's right. And as far as fixed wing, and then there's the couple of helicopters. You're welcome, Megan.
You'd all be dead now if it wasn't my David. None of you did anything to prevent this.
There was nothing we could do. We were totally unprepared for this.
Oh, don't give me unprepared.
Come on,
It
Julius.
was what, in the 50s or whatever, you had that spaceship.
Dad,
Yeah, the thing that you found in New Mexico.
Dad.
After we couldn't get military support for helping with the aerial footage, we were going to get the stock footage from manufacturers of the F-18. They had some great location for some great stock footage. I believe it was the New Zealand Air Force or the Australian Air Force had shot a bunch of photography with F-18s that didn't have markings. It turned out that the original negative couldn't be located, so that also fell through. And at each one of these cases, we were already in the midst of starting to shoot things where the plan fell through, and we had to take another course.
Yeah, some of those shots I remember, like training video. We used to analyze the moves of the planes, and there was actually one shot where we put computer generated airplanes on top of the real ones, simulating their one move that they were doing. Although there's only one shot in the movie. This is Fontana again. Here, this old steel mill.
And you see the helicopter wreck actually off in the distance of that shot.
He's speaking his word, and the end has come.
Come on! We're heading out to El Toro!
And this, of course, is a guy you only see in the special edition. And you never saw on the big screen.
Tomorrow.
Give me a hand?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's get this off.
Here, help you. She's hurt pretty badly. You know, this was supposed to be my weekend off. But no. You got me out here dragging your heavy ass through the burning desert with your dreadlocks sticking out the back of my parachute. You gotta come down here with an attitude, acting all big and bad. And what the hell is that smell? I could have been at a barbecue. But I ain't mad. It's all right. That is all right. Hey! 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 Hey!
I have to admit that this was all done for real.
Need a lift, soldier?
Yeah, the transportation, the captain in quite a few scenes, including that LAX traffic jam, and this scene did an incredible job getting all these things together. It's another hanging miniature shot. The wheels touching down stock footage.
Okay. This is a foreground miniature of our Model 747 in front of the real background of the airbase. And this is a composite with a miniature in the background.
Welcome to Area 51. Please follow me.
Now 24 floors beneath the surface.
And earlier on, we were talking about these gigantic hangars on the Howard Hughes Airport. And coming up here is another example of one of these huge rooms that were built in this hangar. It's pretty much like a football field in a building.
Yeah, it was narrow but very long. In fact, the location that they're walking right now does lead into the hangar that has the alien aircraft. As sets, they're also lined up. They could shoot this in a continuous take if they wanted to.
It was pretty amazing actually walking through that. I did that once at night when everything was shut down. Just walk through the set, and everything felt real because it was this secluded area you were in. Just for a while, you didn't feel like being on a movie set. Everything was real.
There's Dr. Oken, who's named after the visual effects supervisor on Stargate.
Jeff Oken,
who has graying hair that's not unlike this. One of sort of Roland's inside jokes of how he names people in his shows.
Guess you'd like to see the big tamale, huh? Follow me.
So this set and the set they were just in are literally connected, just as you see it here. And this exists as a real set. That's a real alien aircraft, and the walls of this big hangar are just a few feet inside the actual hangar set walls that are part of the Hughes facility.
I was always referring to this as our James Bond set.
It was amazing to see this. Those even the offices up in the background were used in quite a few different situations.
As you can see from the repairs, we've been trying to put her back together since the late 1960s. Don't tell me you've had
The supervision of the building of the actual attacker was being done by Frank Bollinger, who's also one of our crew members from Germany that we worked together with since more than 10 years.
Guys started showing up, all the little gizmos inside turned on. The last 24 hours have been really exciting.
We later had to duplicate this hangar in miniature
I don't think exciting is a word
for just a handful of shots that are coming up a little later. We'll come to. Of course, it was very complicated to match the lighting situation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not all that.
Everything was for the miniature set. Everything was built around the size of the alien packer that was constructed. So it was a fairly small miniature set, and all the lighting also had to be miniaturized in order to match. And I don't think anybody can really tell very easily which sets were done in miniature and which ones are the full-size sets.
Maybe we should not give it away.
This is the vault, or as some of us have come to call it,
The freak show. This is where we're revealing the alien creatures that are inside the biomechanical suits.
When we found them, they were.
It looks so simple as a setup here was quite a headache for set construction to get these huge tubes in there and fill them with water and have everything stable.
Obviously not thinking about hand signals and body language.
It's some kind of extrasensory perception, telepathy. So, it's an organic life form.
Patrick Tatopoulos and his creature crew had a pretty limited budget on this movie, and you actually don't see too much of the creatures. And I think it's kind of a twofold thing. On the one hand, we weren't allowed to really create very elaborate mechanical creature pieces. Sometimes it's even a guy in a suit, which we see a little later, running around there. And then for some wide shots, we had water scale rod puppets in front of green screen.
It's another case where the most low-tech approach was taken. There was no digital alien created in this.
What code?
Of course, here you have a little hut on the Salt Lake in the middle of nowhere, which later cuts with the actual location. Not sure if it was Wendover or one of those.
Yeah, near Wendover. Yeah, they're in the Salt Lake area.
States Marine Corps. I'm sorry, Captain. This is a restricted area. I can't let you pass without clearance. Okay. Come here. You want to see my clearance? Maybe I'll just leave this here with you.
That's what I would do if I wanted to get onto a top-secret military base with every vehicle around. Would be to show an alien creature.
Yeah, have a rubber alien with you.
Well, obviously, this cockpit was designed to seat 3, so how they sat on, I don't know. You see these gifts?
Back, this part wasn't in.
Yeah, one of the special edition features.
Some stuff we figured out right away.
Makes the
we're pretty sure
designers and
yeah.
people from the set construction very happy.
This doohickey is connected to. Oh, it was connected to the engine. Here, take that one. These configurations. Well, to be honest, we don't know what the hell this crap is. Yeah, but this is clearly what they use to guide and navigate their craft. Neat, huh?
Good. Somebody grab my laptop there. Dr. Isaacs, can I just have the computer inside there?
What?
See these patterns here, they're repeating sequentially. It's just like their countdown signal. They're using that frequency for computer communications.
Huh?
See? That's how they're coordinating their ships.
Huh. You know, you're really starting to make us look bad.
They got one! They got one alive!
They got one alive.
Jesus. Look, you be okay by yourself, Dave?
Fine, Brad.
Yeah. Don't touch anything.
Brad's always telling me not to touch it. Yeah.
Right here, we got him in the back of the pickup. You know, sir, Captain Stephen Hiller, United States Marine Corps. Guess who's coming to dinner?
I need a doctor! I need a doctor! Oh, boy. Oh, boy. How long has he been unconscious?
About 3 hours.
Let's get him into containment. My son, he's very sick. He needs immediate attention. He's drying out. I want him sprayed down with saline. He has a problem with his adrenal cortex. Please! Oh, do something about it right now. My son will die. Okay, just help him.
Okay. Well, Haver, Miller, you come with us. You take us to him, okay? Let's go.
All right, move it.
As the former head of the CIA, you knew about this place. When were you planning on informing the rest of us?
Had been deemed classified.
Told us about this when they first arrived. Should have warned us before we launched a counterattack that cost us the lives of hundreds of American pilots.
There was no way that we could have known that our fighters would have been that ineffective against their attackers. Mr. President.
The little bit of information we have comes directly into this room, Mr. President.
Atlanta, Chicago, and Philadelphia. Destroyed. We learned that NATO and Western Allied installations were the first to be taken out. Then we were hit. They knew exactly where and how to hit us. And our forces? We're down to 15%. If you calculate the time it takes to destroy a city and move on, We're looking at the worldwide destruction of every major city in the next 36 hours.
We're being exterminated.
Mr. President. This is Captain Stephen Hiller.
Captain.
Mr. President.
All done. Where is it now?
We have it isolated down in the containment lab, sir.
I'd like to go see it.
General, I'm really anxious to get back to El Toro.
Hasn't anyone told you? El Toro has been completely destroyed.
Coming up here is a miniature shot of the destroyed El Toro air base. And this was one of these typical shots where we quickly had to create a setup of some destruction on a tabletop miniature. We have a fence element that was shot separately in front of a green screen. And it was composited together. It's right here, together with the background sky that was also provided by Roland on one of his desert location shoots.
It was the first time I used the subway. Thank God for the metro rail.
You should last us a while. Don't move. I get it for you. Stay still.
So much of the fence element was actually shot in front of green screen, and we watched it in dailies where we usually meet every morning and watch the material that has been shot the day before, that we were sitting there and watching a fence in front of a green background for maybe 10 minutes or so. So we dubbed it Fence the Movie.
Dancer. Ballet. No. Exotic. Oh. Sorry. Don't be. I'm not. It's good money. Besides, my baby's worth it. Dylan.
The process of putting together these
Did you meet the first lady?
little vignettes that were needed happened pretty quickly, as the amount of model material accumulated during the show. You could kind of pick and choose the destroyed buildings and debris and wrecked cars that you needed, and started assembling a scene. And it was required many times during the show.
We would always find something somewhere. There would be some destroyed buildings in a corner.
Pick there. Good. All right, now spread it very, very gently.
So here, of course, the biomechanical suit being cut open.
The nice insert shot that was done by the effects people.
Yeah,
right here.
When you know what's happening here, it's great fun to actually watch the people in the movie theater all jump off their seats at the same time.
All right. Okay. Let's proceed. Now comes the really icky part. Oh boy. This is one smelly, disgusting. It doesn't look alive, does it? The arm is moving.
There were two initial designs. One was what later became the biomechanical suit, and the other one was this smaller alien inside. And Roland had this idea of to actually combine those two and put the small one inside of the big one. So they both got used. And the small one is based on these reports from people who claimed that they had been abducted by aliens.
You never really get to see the creature as a whole body, top to bottom, at any particular point here. There are some composite scenes that happen a little bit later where you see a miniature version.
And whenever you see the tentacles on the back of the creature, imagine half a dozen guys standing beside the camera wiggling these tentacles.
Yeah, so there was one shot that got almost all the way to final where we discovered there was a hand in the side of the shot wiggling one of those tentacles like a jump rope. Had to be removed.
Open the door. Get him out of there.
No, wait.
This is one of those matte shots where a miniature had been used. An insert of the feet walking on the steps.
I know there is much we can learn from each other if we can negotiate in peace. We can find a way to coexist.
Even on those shots with the miniatures, the director was very hands-on and was actually there on the set, and we were rehearsing the moves together with Patrick.
What is it you want us to do?
That's good. Is that glass bulletproof?
No, sir.
That was the real suit being yanked backwards on stage.
Are you all right? I saw his thoughts. I saw what they're planning to do. Like locusts. They're moving from planet to planet. Their whole civilization. After they've consumed every natural resource, they move on. And we're next. Nuke 'em. Let's nuke the bastards.
At this point, we could talk about the upcoming nuclear destruction shot over Houston, and you shot some of these bombers, motion control, and my crew provided the background, very low-tech approach.
Right. Then the background was a large scale painted background. So all the backgrounds were photographed, sort of like just a moving piece of artwork for the miniature shots that would later go into them. So yeah, the bombers were done motion control, and so it was a very sort of pretty straightforward shots. Only one bomber was used and replicated many times.
And those were actually bought off the shelf, I guess, also. They were available miniatures. And the low-tech approach on the background was actually a lot of fun to accomplish. We used these huge black cardboard pieces, and we had two different techniques in showing the city lights behind bombers. We were poking holes. I'm always saying we. It was actually myself standing there for hours on the set. Sometimes you have to describe something to somebody to do it, and figure out after a while it's actually much faster when you do it yourself. This was one of these rare instances, and so I was standing there for 2 hours or so, poking holes in a cardboard background. And another technique we also applied was using UV paint ultraviolet paint, and we were lighting it with blacklight. So you would see these different colored little dots on the cardboard later.
Look, I got
It's all for pretty short shots, but it's a typical situation where you have to come up with some solution. You don't want to go up in a plane and shoot a real moving city landscape. So also here we try to come up with a really simple solution. And here we are.
With some extra smoke elements shot to add atmosphere. We studied some of the bomber footage in order to figure out exactly what their motion was like, and it turns out that it was so precise and mechanical looking that we actually had to soften it a little bit. Even so, it looks fairly mechanical. Those things don't move like you kind of expect a flying plane to do. They turn and go into one position and go.
Here's another miniature setup from Houston where we quickly had to come up with this bridge set, and we actually pushed this miniature tank up the bridge with a broom handle. Now that's high tech.
There's a city painting in the background with a destroyer hovering over it with a miniature motion control bombers.
Do you wish to deploy?
Mr. President, if you wish to deploy, the time is now.
Mr. President, deploy. That's a go. Alpha Zulu 689, that is a go.
Here we go.
And then the rocket, I believe, was a CG element composited in. This is actually also real setup. This is quite a large miniature and was mechanically deployed with a little help of digital post-production.
Yeah, the flame elements and the lens flare were added later, but besides that, what you see is what was in the camera.
So a quick video shot we did on stage with a, I think, half-reflective mirror. We projected a little light point, and all the stuff flying by the tank was done in camera. No composites in here either. I think we shot this 4 or 5 times, and then there was this one time where you could actually see this one car even bump against the bridge, and we were very happy in getting that just by chance.
Good job, everyone. Congratulations. Commander, do you have visual? I repeat, we need visual confirmation. Has the target been destroyed?
Even for these low-res video shots that you're seeing here, we had to create a little miniature landscape and shoot the destroyer using our 12-foot destroyer.
Target remains. I repeat, target remains.
Call the other planes back.
Well, other bombers might have more luck, so we shouldn't just give up on this!
I said call them back.
Abort.
All right, abort mission. Issue the abort codes right away. This is an abort. Full abort. Do you read? Abort mission right away. Roger that.
So, before we get to the next effects segment, sort of talk about the setup on how the rest of the movie was put together in order to accomplish all these composites and all the CG elements that were necessary. There's a different approach on this, as we were talking about earlier, about trying to do it with low overhead and at the same time maintain control. And a series of smaller facilities were used to help composite all these elements digitally, and also to generate all the digital elements that were needed. The German contingent that Volker brought over, the former students, were all housed at a place called the Pacific Ocean Post.
Yes, they actually provided us with a major share of the digital composites in the end. I think over 200 of the 400, almost 400 were done over there. The four other main houses we were working with were the Post Group, Digiscope, Vision Art, and OCS Freeframe. And later, when we come to that, we had one shot being done by Mad World Digital, and this one just composite by Dreamscape, Mark Weigert's company.
So as the miniature photography part and explosion part wound down, the responsibility of Volker and I shifted to going to these facilities and touching base with them.
Actually, you spend a lot of time in your car when you do these things, driving from one company to the other.
The digital post-production phase was headed up by Tricia Ashford and Stephen Puri, together a team, and it's not an insignificant project to help organize these over 400 composites among all these facilities, with well over 1,000 elements to deal with.
Yeah, we had Tara Turner and Joe Francis heading up the CG side, with Hartmut Engel as our unit CG supervisor, also being housed at POP. That's where we really spent most of our time and eating most of our dinners for quite a while. Another important thing is the editorial process, which gets overlooked easily, and we both actually spent so much time in editorial, either with our main editor, David Brenner, or most of the time actually with our effects editor, Peter Elliott, picking the pieces, first of all, because as simple as it sounds, somebody has to do it. And it's not always the director who even has the time to do that when we really shoot thousands of miniature elements. And we're talking about all these pyro pieces and palm trees being blown away or stuff like that. And you shoot that, you shoot palm tree left, palm tree right, and sometimes there are as many as like 15, 16 different elements that need to go into one shot, and this has to be picked and located, and the whole organizing effort this goes into this whole thing, and you need a really good editorial department to keep track of all these little film pieces.
The timing has to be set on all these things too, and a lot of complicated shots they get a pre-composite done, or an earlier temp, a combination of all the elements. That was also set up in this near the same or editorial place. And one thing about the editorial facility is that the effects editor worked very closely with the production editor. They were in adjoining rooms, and at a certain point, even David Brenner, the main editor, was becoming quite an expert at compositing elements together. Everybody had a pretty clear understanding of how all these shots went together, and it helped tremendously to move all these shots through the process.
Yeah, David did quite a bit of these little Avid pre-composites, and we had to set up a little separate setup with Mark Colby doing some of those composites, so we could, in a really early stage, see how the stuff would look like being put together.
Yeah, we could work out the timing before the elements went to a facility, and so the separate facilities that were working on it would get a sample composite of what had to be done. And as a lot of the questions were answered by working it out at an early stage.
Also here, the permanent access to the director was a crucial element to that. We never had to wait for a whole week or something to get feedback on stuff. Most of the time, especially during the editorial process, we would actually watch dailies together with Roland on a daily basis and get our comments immediately. So there was not too much guesswork. Should be mentioned that the movie was actually produced in a very short amount of time. I think overall, it was like a 14 months period or something like that.
Certainly does.
From finished screenplay to
All right, Connie, what's this?
get the whole thing done.
I have no idea.
And that's not much,
All right, everybody.
especially when you have so many elaborate effects and things interacting.
You have a pistol? You got a gun?
Here you can see there's a switch that's made from live action hangar and alien fighter to the miniature hangar and fighter,
Do it, shoot it. Sir?
and it happens when the alien fighter starts flying. Shield effect is also generated by the Vision Art crew.
My fault.
Real effective.
My fault. That Coke can.
I think it looks cool.
That's right, their defenses.
We know that already. What's your point?
Right, my point is if we can't beat their defenses, well, we got to get around them. Major, one more.
I remember the Coke can removal here. There was another shot being done with the spaceship where the Coke can was actually shot off already. Probably this shot there. But the Coke can was still standing there, so we had to, unfortunately, digitally remove the Coke can.
I gave it a call. I gave it a virus. Computer virus.
Are you telling us you can send out a signal that will disable all their shields?
That's right, just like they used our satellites against us. We can use their own signal against them. If we plant a virus into that mother ship, it's going to then filter down into...
Now, this is my favorite Jeff Goldblum speech.
I'm sorry,
He
I
has
don't
it
understand. Just how
all figured out.
exactly do we infect the mothership with this virus?
It's another drawing where he shows the plot of the movie again.
Have to,
This is a very visual movie.
out of our atmosphere and dock with it. We can enter here, as shown in the satellite photos. We then upload the virus. We then set off some kind of explosion, which will disable it, and that'll disorient the smaller ships below, and that could buy it, I think, at least some time.
There's actually some artwork from the art department on the left side in frame here.
Now, take them down. Do your stuff.
This is ridiculous.
How long will their shields be down?
Those were sketches and drawings to show the model makers how the miniatures should look like.
A few minutes?
The shields down, that might be possible.
Oh, please. We don't have the manpower or the resources to launch that kind of a campaign. Not to mention that this whole cockamamie plan is dependent on a machine that no one in this world is qualified to operate.
I wouldn't say that, sir. I've seen these.
There's really only this handful of shots where we had to use the miniature hangar. First of all, the hovering, and a little later the launch of the craft.
We don't even know if it's capable of.
Actually, what it turned out to be a logistics problem is why they had to build a miniature, because they could not shoot the hangar without the alien aircraft.
Yeah, we couldn't
full size.
We couldn't move it out.
And it required all these shots. This is a miniature.
And this
miniature. Philip Timme and
Any questions?
along with the gaffer Victor Bainey did a great job on this stuff.
Especially simulating all these little additional bright light sources that we had on the live action set.
Good luck, pilot.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Virus.
Your idea.
That's right.
Of course, it's one of these shots where you can be proud of when the audience don't see. The audience doesn't see that it's a visual effects shot.
I understand you are upset over the death of your wife, but that's no excuse for making another fatal mistake.
No, the only mistake I ever made was to appoint a sniveling little weasel like you Secretary of Defense.
I don't think you understand.
However, there's one mistake I am thankful to say that I don't have to live with.
I think coming up is all the wide shots of the various forces that have gathered, and they're going to mass for the attack later on in a coordinated attack that were done in a similar style to the airplanes that the pilots ran out to earlier.
Exactly, yeah. There was a live action setup with the mock-up planes in the foreground. It's coming up in a couple of seconds here, and Then I shot a couple of different setups. I think actually only 3 different ones with miniatures. And at Pacific Ocean Post, Jennifer German did this composite of all these different pieces and created this vast landscape that we see here.
It's from the Americans. They want to organize a counter-offensive.
It's about bloody time. What do they plan to do?
This was a lot of fun watching it at the British premiere of the movie when he says, "It's about bloody time."
The Russian setup with this rain was very nicely done also.
One of these other really quick things that we had to shove into the schedule somehow.
With miniature rain.
We have confirmed reports of
Yeah, we had these Hudson sprayers and created the miniature rain with that, and everything else was just a tabletop setup.
We have sufficient air.
Yeah, normally you'd never put water on a miniature because the drops look funny, but it was done in a combination where it hid the fact that the water was collecting.
And trade rumors of military forces in hiding, unwilling to reveal themselves for fear of annihilation. One thing is certain.
What we're planning at this time is to launch a counteroffensive. However, with our depleted manpower, we're asking that anyone with any flight experience come forward. Military training is preferable. Anyone who can fly a plane would be useful.
Okay, good. I can fly. I'm pilot.
Coming up are these additional shots that had been done with Russell. Oh, this is actually shot in Hangar 45. This is shot inside the hangar where we did a lot of our miniature setups.
Right. Where they're sitting right now is where the 12-foot destroyer spent most of its time being photographed. This little sequence here was shot within 6 weeks of the release of the movie.
And Randy Quaid, who was established as a crop duster pilot, had to become a Vietnam vet because after a test screening, it showed that the ending that was planned wasn't very effective because he flew his crop duster up the spaceship to destroy it with a nuclear missile.
Yeah, and the missile was tied onto the crop duster with a rope onto the side of it. And so the audiences didn't quite believe it, and they rewrote the ending of the movie to put him in an F-18 fighter along with the rest of the crews.
So very early on in the movie, he had to be established as somebody being capable of flying an F-18. And the scene that we just saw helped establish that also.
How fast they put that sequence together and shot it was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was pretty much a couple of days. Also getting actor Randy Quaid back.
Why you? David! I don't understand. Why you can't show someone else how to plant the virus? Someone who is trained?
Oh, no, something may go wrong. I have to think quickly, jump the signal. Who knows? Hey, you know how I'm always trying to save the planet? Here's my chance.
One of the things about the visual effects is that with the simple approach that was taken, we started out with a lot of miniature photography in the motion control area because it was thought that it was going to take too long to get digital jets and planes together in order to meet our deadline. As we got into the movie, it got more and more possible to do digital jets. And after it was shown to the director that it was working, they started being used more and more in close-ups. And in fact, with motion control photography, miniature photography, sometimes you end up with a lot of elements that have to be digitized and then transferred over data lines. And it can be a cumbersome process for a company that's only used to doing 3D work, that you have all this information that's photographic that has to be transferred back and forth. So there are some cases where some of the elements were replaced with some of the motion control elements were replaced with digital models, and I believe there are some cases where I'm not even aware of it because they didn't want to tell me that they had done it because of all the work that had went into the motion control photography. But as we got close to the deadline, it turned out to be faster in a few cases to generate a CG jet fighter or alien than it was to actually use the photograph material because of the constraints on of all the data that had to be shipped back and forth.
Morning. You're a little young.
Referring to the CG models of the airplanes, we used photographs of real F-18 fighters that we were able to take and texture map them onto the CG wireframe model of the F-18 to make it look really real. And especially when it comes to all these little dirt spots and all these tiny little things. Of course, you don't want it to look like a tiny piece of CG in the end. So what you actually see is real because it's taken from these photographs,
Words should have new meaning for all of us today.
including a little pilot in the cockpit.
Differences anymore.
This is so amazing that Bill Pullman pulled this speech off so emotionally charged because it was his first day of shooting that he had. They drove him out there to that location, and this was pretty much the first thing he had to do. Give this amazing speech.
But from annihilation, we're fighting for our right to live.
We only added a couple of airplanes in the background in, I think, 2 of the wide shots that are coming up at the end of the speech. It's one of these typical things where you just want to show the huge area and establish that all these jet fighters are actually standing there.
We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Okay. Here we go. Of course, there were only 3 wooden mock-up planes standing in the background, and we added a couple of miniature ones that we shot in the right perspective, and then later in digital compositing added to the shot. And one of Roland's famous desert sky backgrounds.
You're over here. Look, I got a jumpsuit for you. The rest of your gear squared away in this duffel. Got choice of helmet.
Mr. President, I'd sure like to know what you're doing. I'm a combat pilot, Will. Belong in the air.
Okay, so let's get you airborne right over here. You know, as soon as I get back, we're gonna light those fireworks, right?
I would like to add that the CG crew on the movie was actually pretty small. When I think of our in-house crew that we had working all these jet fighter and attack or swarm shots, and a couple of them, a lot of them actually are still coming up. There were, as far as I remember, only 9 people that were our main CG unit on this. So it was not hundreds and hundreds of people.
They also generated early on, before we could get under production, they generated a lot of the computer readout the information.
Yeah, whenever you see a missile fly towards the ship on one of these little monitors, or some information that's just going on in the background, computer screens, exactly all this stuff.
It's hard to believe, but after the movie got going, it took a while for the digital area to get properly funded and to find a location for them. So every spare moment they had was used in some way toward the finish of the movie, and that's why they ended up doing all these computer readouts.
Yeah, I think we rented some PCs for that, and they did that stuff in one of the rooms on the US airport first.
Coming up are a few more shots where the alien attacker is a miniature in the larger set, and in fact we tilt up with it as it leaves their underground hangar area. And you'll see during this. Oh, and here's the additional footage that was also shot for Randy, establishing his connection with his family, and his ability to fly the plane. So looking back in that hangar brings back fond memories of all those miniature shots.
We're sharing a tear.
Victory dance. Not until the fat lady sings.
Oh, yes, okay.
This is important.
Fat lady. I got you.
Open launch tunnel.
So these are two miniatures at different scales, motion controlled together. The doors open and reveal one of the Roland skies, and there's a sequentially lighting of the tunnel.
And of course, whenever you see the ship move, it's the miniature.
Shaky, huh? I was going to do this the whole way.
Make sure your seat backs and tray tables are in their upright and locked position.
Yeah. Is it?
Rock and roll. Oops.
Also known as the oops shot.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
I got it. Some jerk didn't put.
I know what I mean when I say oops. What do you mean saying oops there?
Well, you say we try that one again, huh?
Yes, without the oops. Yes, that way.
So when they head out of the tunnel here, a combination of motion control of a fighter in this tunnel, and fortunately they cut the shot short there because the sync was never right on the ship leaving. You can see it kind of wobble as it goes out.
That was a tricky one. Remember that.
There it is, testing the roll capabilities. This shot right here is actually one of the first composites that were done, and it ended up being redone. The time of day changed during the progress of the movie, so the whole lighting setup had to be changed from the photograph to the miniature.
One of these really tricky things. You want to start early, and then during the course of the making of the movie, lots of things change. You have to redo things.
In the case of that particular shot, I was happy because that first composite didn't look too good.
Still with me over there?
What the hell was I thinking? Oh.
So as we start getting out into space, it turns into multiple motion control shots. These are more sort of in the more typical vein of visual effects space movies. There's a satellite photo of the Earth that's been mapped on a dome, and the texture has been increased to give it a little bit more depth. And that's our mothership.
Which was pretty much, I think, 12 feet overall.
Yes, yeah, 12 feet. And so it was quite a large model to deal with. Happily, you only saw it from one side.
Oops. We're going to work on our communication.
So there's a series of approach shots here, and this is a great miniature shot.
The background was lit by Anna Förster here, and is made of our really small miniature mountains that we talked about earlier, and the jet fighters were actually computer generated.
This is over one of the photographic backgrounds of the ship moving in, the big destroyer moving in.
If that thing gets here before the virus is planted.
Oh man, this facility is buried deep in the mountain. Should provide us some protection.
Great. What about the people outside?
Federal sail. We got incoming.
So everything possible is done here to maximize the scale difference between this little fighter and the big mothership. As we move in here on this little area, this area is actually was kind of faked. That's on the bottom of the mothership, and the little triangle was cut in there.
But it was probably only like a foot by a foot or something.
Yeah, very, very small area. We had no other model represented. This tunnel was very problematic to shoot. It was probably about, I believe it was 30 feet long. And it was very difficult lighting. The only lighting sources were these little holes on the side and the spill light on the ends. As the camera traveled down, the top of this triangle would open up, and the lighting would have to move out of the way too. The exposure times on this thing were enormous. Then we come out into the big room. It's a big smoke room, and the columns that were made were about 10 feet tall. This is a map between the tunnel and a wall section. These columns, there were only 5 of the columns. Only actually one of them was made as a 360-degree column. The others are only half columns. And actually, what you see here is the way it looked in the camera. The destroyers in the background were all filmed separately. We're coming up on this sort of major docking area. You'll see all these troops down below. Well, those square patches are supposed to be thousands of troops, and on the workstation you can actually see them moving. This is
we had some rod puppets here.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we only shot one and then just replicated it. It looks like a long line of aliens lining up to get into one of these transport ships.
And all those aliens down below, those patches are they're all moving toward the right ship.
This is the digital matte painting by Matte World Digital. And this is a complete miniature setup here with a foreground piece of cockpit that was shot separately. This is also an in-camera piece here. Whenever you look towards the docking area, it's this one miniature piece. Whenever you look out of this little booth, out of this booth here, and you see this as being stitched together with a lot of different elements.
Yeah, the motion control crew people, Jim Balsam and Harry Alpert, did an exceptional job of trying to get the right motion of, for instance, the clamping of that ship to work right in a motion control way, which is a very difficult procedure.
Yeah, you actually computer program a move that should look much more mechanical and random, which is the hardest thing you can do.
Some good CG fighters here. They started out as miniature, and by the end of the movie they were CG. So they got actually produced twice as elements.
The virus is in.
This is a shot that Connie Fauser was putting together in only 2 days to show this one shot of the inside of the mothership with thousands of aliens in front of huge monitors.
Box 3.
This is it.
Here we have this little piece of miniature landscape, which was maybe only like 3 by 3 feet, with our foot destroyer in the background. And of course, one of the 7 skies was used again.
Virus ineffective. Disengage. Get your people out of there.
Disengage. Rear flank follows suit.
CG planes. This was actually the shot that we kind of copied from this training video.
I want another shot. Sir, I strongly recommend you disengage.
Eagle 1. Fox 3.
And a real Estes missile flying through Hangar 35.
Followed by a CG missile.
And this explosion is a separate element that was put on top of our surface of the large destroyer miniature, the 30-foot one.
Those are actually motion-controlled miniature jets in that case, with CG missiles added. You can see there's a lot of reactive light happening around those explosions that was added.
And when you see all these little pieces flying, it was actually a piece of glass exploding that we shot as separate elements.
All right, Mr. President, here we go. All right.
So this dogfight obviously is done in different layers, and the very background layer is this procedural dogfight that is attributes were able to be dialed into. Program was developed by VisionArt. And so depending on who's winning and who has missiles, they set the background dogfight up, and it takes care of itself. And so the mid-ground is exploding actual miniatures or CG ships.
And here come the swarming attackers. And this is another huge setup. This is a real explosion setup by Clay Pinney and his crew. And they blew up quite a lot of mobile homes there. Here we have a couple of different layers. There's a foreground layer with the people running in front of a green screen, a mid-ground layer of a miniature hangar, and a background layer of the real outside of the hangar.
Steve!
Hey, what the hell are you doing?
The shield was also just a two-dimensional piece that we applied in digital post.
Everybody hold someone's hand. Hold hands. Come on in.
Ma, Coleno, Hashem, Eloheinu.
I'm not Jewish.
Nobody's perfect.
Who's Frachim? V'akabel.
God. What are they?
This could be our last night on Earth. I don't want to die a virgin.
If we do, we'll both die virgins. But at least we'll be together.
Are you scared? Me too.
Eagle 7, Fox 2.
Eagle 3, Fox 2.
We had a library of 4 or 5 really nice explosions, side angles or front angles that we would use over and over again. Some mechanical schism again, some foreground miniatures, the procedural dogfight going on.
Let's take it out before it takes us out.
Targeted 12.
And this is actually underneath the 12-foot model here.
Oh God, they're everywhere.
And the 12-foot model was rigged above the miniature landscape. This was shot as one piece, and even the background you see is an airbrushed sky backing there. So we had a complete background, and we only had to put in the miniature jets and all the CG dogfight going on.
I've got toad. Eagle 1, Fox 2.
This missile starting was actually happening in front of a painted backdrop there, and was leaving the wing.
That is a negative impact.
And these are other cases where the big schism is matted into the 12-foot destroyer. Those models are actually the same size in reality.
Sir, all missiles have been fired. You're out of time. Get your ass out of there.
We're not done yet!
Get as far away as you can. Doesn't anyone have any missiles left?
Sorry I'm late, Mr. President!
And here comes Russell to the rescue, which was very tricky to composite this cloud in there.
Armed and ready, sir.
So Russell Rescue was originally the Russell flying with a biplane. So you see a lot of the moves here are kind of a little bit more sweeping and kind of languid, and that's exactly the path that the biplane took. At the last second was replaced by the F-18 fighter.
Take flanking positions. I want you to look after this guy, okay? All right, boys. Let's give Mr. Case some cover. Gentlemen, let's plow the road. We'll throw him off, and it'll be all yours.
And, here you would see the biplane.
I've got tone. Eagle 20. Box 2.
All the cockpit shots were also accomplished with a pretty simple mock-up of a cockpit, and the background you see is being rotated behind the actor. So there are no digital composites in here. It was also done in camera.
Yeah, the background was on a rotator mounted on a forklift, so it's going up and down and rolling side to side.
So it looks like it would actually be the plane that is rolling.
Do me a favor. Tell my children I love them very much. All right.
I remember these wonderful night sessions at the post group towards the end of the schedule when the nights became longer and longer.
Dad, what's he doing? Come on. Come on, come on.
And the particle beam.
Good luck, buddy.
You know, when this F-18 goes up, I've had a lot of people comment about how slow this plane's going, but that was because it was started out as a biplane.
And when you see the explosion here, we did a little trick. It's actually the Empire State Building exploding. We rotated it 180 degrees. But don't tell anyone.
And this wave of destruction that's happening is another thing that happened sort of late in the show, a month before the end of before the release date. Roland and Dean realizes they wanted much more destruction than was originally boarded, so more explosions had to be shot and composites had to be done to do it. There was no real destroyer that was exploded, and all these are patched smoke and patched flames.
Yeah, it was
on
real.
top of a model.
Real explosion elements that we shot outside LA in one tedious night shot, where we also shot some additional glass exploding elements that we could then use all over the movie. So no destroyer was really destroyed. It's all means of compositing.
Hundreds of explosion elements all warped and fit and put into over the ship.
Also, the glowing pieces that you see mostly under the ship was actually this sort of metal mesh that we had being backlit, and we shot those as separate pieces and had a whole library of those we could use in post-production.
Having the ship crash behind the mountain range was a cost-saving device.
Yeah, we've seen this in a lot of movies, actually.
Usually it's a helicopter that crashes behind the mountain.
We at least we saw 2/3 of the ship, though.
What do you think? Checkmate.
So here's the big discussion between Steve and David in the movie about what to do. And this is also a sequence that was boarded much less elaborate, I would say, in the beginning. And once they're firing the missile into the mothership, into the heart of the mothership, Roland decided that he wanted to see the missile fly through a couple of say compartments inside the ship. So these couple of really quick setups were being done to make this happen. And for example, you see the missile fly along something that looks like a hallway, something like that. And it was really literally being thrown together from pieces that were used in the docking sequence and things like that. The actual start of the missile, when it's coming out of this tube, is a bungee cord gag that we did. So the missile is actually breaking through there.
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Exploding group.
We're loose. Can you get us out of here in 30 seconds?
I ain't heard no fat lady.
Forget the fat lady. You're obsessed with the fat lady. Drive us out of here.
Here goes your motion control unit again. We actually inserted some CG attackers there too.
Right, and start seeing all these transports flying by at the same time as we leave. and the doors are closing on top of these guys, and as they try and get out of here. So these are shot at a much faster rate, and the tempo of the movie is picked up a little bit here.
Tunnel, exit left. Where the hell do you think I'm going? Okay.
When we see the transport ships from the front, I spotted at the very end that one of the transport ships is actually making a very subtle wrong move right in this shot here, but nobody ever spotted it.
Mm-hmm. All these things were shot from the same direction in this tunnel. It's just the lighting was flopped over.
Uh-oh, they're closing up on us. Is that closing? Shut up! Go faster. Must go fast.
Those were real mechanical doors closing there. We were swinging one of these attackers actually against some surface and exploded. This was also being done on a rope. There was a discussion about the design of the explosion of the mothership, so it wouldn't look like the destruction of the Death Star at the end of Star Wars. And the decision was made to go completely CG on this one here and create this bright nuclear flash.
Yeah, there's no way that we felt we could get the scale necessary out of a practical explosion with a miniature. Even if we had small explosions, we couldn't get it to be the right size, so it had to be totally artificial.
Right, the ship was supposed to be something like 500 miles in diameter, something like that. So you don't want to see any sparks flying. Mm-hmm. And here we have some digital matte paintings coming up done by Michael Lloyd.
These foregrounds were all shot at the Howard Hughes facility, and you're looking out actually toward the ocean. And photographs of the pyramids and were put in. In this case, it was stock footage of Sydney, where the story was put in. I believe the studio asked for more around the world views at the end of the picture.
Exactly.
So that was also put together later in the show.
It's the moment when things are starting to pile up on your schedule.
Right.
Going down all over the world.
Good thing, though, is that everybody has worked together for such a long time at this point of time, so things just go much more fluent.
It was a great example of, that what you hear is a digital backlot that you can go out and shoot what appears to be a distant location, and it's in fact right outside the hangars where you shot the rest of the movie.
We even added some people on the bridge in front of Sydney.
I don't want to give the impression that everything was like rushed and thrown together. There are massive amounts that went as planned, and there's huge amounts of destroyer shots, things that had to be carefully planned, and different backgrounds that were gone through at a steady rate. And in the end, the show was able to finish before it had to be released.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course, 5 years after the fact, you mostly remember the things that didn't go according to schedule. But concerning the logistics and also comparing it to even some other shows that also usually involve much more post houses, we were very lucky that we made this decision to only work with 5 different facilities. I think this went rather smooth, actually.
Yeah, this audio recording is being made 5 years after the movie was made. So our impressions are kind of the highlights of what happened. That shot of the destroyer on fire as a location shot, and there are huge contrast issues between the white foreground and or the white lake and the people in the foreground. It was a very difficult shot.
Peter Starlight composited this in the last couple of days.
Yeah. In fact, last shot of the movie was the last shot of the movie.
Exactly.
Completed. At this point in dailies, Roland always said, "Oh, it's a great shot." And next, my name.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is the point where we maybe should throw in that we were lucky enough to actually being awarded with some Academy Awards for our work on this movie. It was actually Doug and myself and Clay Pinney and Joe Viscoso getting the statue. And I remember the day actually I was walking on the in the lot of the 20th Century Fox lot, and Bill Fay, one of the producers, said to me, "So what do you think about the Academy Awards and your chances?" And I said, "Awards? What awards?" And I didn't really realize that there would be a possibility. We were just working on this movie, and then a little while after it was done, you try to think about all other sorts of things, and all of a sudden this popped up, and out of 7 movies, 3 were picked that got the final nominations. What was it? Was us and Twister and Dragonheart, and we were fortunate enough to get the statue in the end.
Yeah, very, very fortunate, because the work in both of those other movies was fantastic. I had a similar experience during the movie. Dean Devlin kept saying how fantastic everything was turning out with the visual effects, and that you guys are going to get an award out of this. And I couldn't believe it. And actually, sort of halfway through the movie was
Our names.
The movie was a very difficult one to get through, because so many things had to be put together from scratch, and all the logistics had to be worked out. About halfway through, I was not very confident that the movie was going to turn out very well. And just after that point, we started seeing some cut sequences, and some of the visual effects started coming together. And after seeing some of what the editor David Brenner was doing, my confidence started to increase. And when I saw the first cut of the sort of the Wall of Destruction sequence, I was pretty amazed by it, and I thought that as a sequence it was phenomenal. And if nothing else in the movie got recognized, everybody would be talking about that. So I was heartened by that. I still didn't think we'd get any kind of award, and as it turns out, that Dean Devlin was right, and things worked out very well in that area.
Remember when we went back into the to our seats after we received the Oscar, and looking at each other, and I think you said something like, "What do you think?" And then we both said something like, "Nice payback."
Yes, it was. You begin to wonder in the middle of some of these things if it's all worth it. But it's nice to get recognized. Sometimes you work on movies, they're very difficult, and actually nobody goes to see them. So in the case of this movie, a lot of people went to go see it, and we were recognized for the hard work.
It was a lot of fun actually sitting in the theater with the crowd. I remember sitting in the Man's Chinese in the middle of Hollywood, and watching the movie on the first Saturday evening, and just get the reaction from the audience, and people reacted so strongly to the sequences. And this is really the point of time where you feel that everything was worth it. You get this very strong reaction.
And it makes you appreciate the vision of somebody like Roland, that knew where he was going with this thing, and kept refining it as he went along. It's a very draining and long process for a director to go through, and he was able to hold up very well to the end. And he was really with us, side by side with us, almost at all hours, reviewing the work and making very minute, specific changes that paid off.
A really important step was the time when it came to show a piece of the movie to the theater owners. And this is being done at an event called Show West in Las Vegas. And so we were rushed in the middle of doing Independence Day to get as many effect shots in the can as we could. So Roland and Dean could actually assemble this reel. I think it was somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes, something like that, so that the theater owners would get an impression of what the movie would look like. And of course, while you're in the middle of it, you have no clue really what you're doing. And this is the first outside reaction you get to your work. And it was just, I wasn't there, but Roland later told us that it was a phenomenal reaction, and the reel actually got standing ovation. So we knew at that point that we were on the right track.
Yeah, the word that the trade papers uses, it began to get a good buzz, and it was mentioned many times that people were expecting big things out of this movie. I remember another story Roland had about the Show West reel, is that the head of the studio introduced Roland and the movie, saying that Independence Day was going to be their Jurassic Park. And when Roland related the story to us later in the editorial area, just a few days later, he had a very grim look on his face. The amount of pressure that added to him to try to live up to something like that was enormous.
At this point, I have to quote Dean when he said that this movie will do to spaceships what Jurassic Park did for dinosaurs.
So at that point, the relationship with the studio improved spectacularly. And in fact, that's where a lot of the changes and additions to the movie became possible. Up to that point, things were extremely tight and difficult. And as soon as the studio saw the potential of the movie, things got a little bit easier.